Welcome to the Upshot, multi-world disc golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, and a few little things to catch up on today. It was the final ratings update of the year, Josh. And first of all, how did your rating do in 2021?
My rating went up pretty significantly, I think. I don't remember where I was at, but I got up to, I had a season high of 935, and then I had a really bad round that got included and a really good round that got dropped off. So I finished the year at 924. I'm still pleased with that. I think next year I'll definitely get to the 935 mark. I missed the first 4 months of the year with an ankle injury, so didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. So I think I'll hit 935, which is my goal for next year. What about you? Did you play any rated rounds this year?
I don't think that I did. I played my only rated rounds in a tournament back in the end of 2020. I should have played in my own tournament that I ran in San Diego and could have got a rating there, but because it was a C tier, I would have been allowed to play. But I felt like, it's like my first time running a tournament. I don't want to play in my own tournament and have something, blow up while I'm out on the course. So I didn't. I'm still sitting like just shy of 900, I think.
Okay.
Which is disappointing. Like I think 2022 goal is for sure going to be to get up over that 900 mark. So in the pro scene, Ricky Wysocki finishes the year as the highest rated player in the world. He's at 1054. And that's 1 point ahead of Eagle McMahon, who's at 1053. Paul McBeth in third at 1050. Those are your only players rated above 1050. Your 1040 guys, Calvin Heimberg at 1047. Matt Oram, 1045. Chris Dickerson, 1045. And, if we're only talking about people who have, more than just like one round, Adam Hammis is at 1041. And Manabu Kajiyama is at 1040. He only had one event in 2021, so also maybe a little bit of a unreasonable comparison there. But he is also like a legitimate professional level player. So, any thoughts on the top of the list there in MPO, Josh?
It feels like right now there's the top three, not the top four. Calvin had, I think, a disappointing season, and he's had a couple rated rounds that I thought he had the chance to make it up, and maybe he did make up some points, and I don't remember where he was at from the last ratings update. But right now it definitely feels you've got Ricky Eagle Paul, and then you have your 1040 guys. We used to say that the top tier was Ricky Eagle, Paul, Calvin. Don't get me wrong. I would not be shocked if next year that takes 2-3 tournaments and then we're back in Calvin's up in the top group again. But Calvin did underperform this season. I think his rating kind of reflects that he has stepped down a little bit from the other three. And I feel like the ratings feel accurate, and I feel like an accurate reflection of my feelings about where the pro scene is.
Yeah. And I think, at times, Chris Dickerson's looked like he belongs in that top group. But I think, this year, not quite as much as we saw in 2020 when, he was really winning a lot, especially towards the end of the season. So it's hard, right? I think the thing that rating tells you more than anything else is consistency. Anybody can have a great weekend, but can you consistently play great? That's what separates people who are at that like 1050 point, is that they consistently play great. Mm-hmm. And, so, a very good year for Ricky Wysocki reflected in the ratings. Over on the FPO side, Paige Pierce, still the highest rated player in the world. She's at 981, only player over 980. Kristen Tatar, 976. Hannah Blomroos, 973. Evelina Salonen, 972. So think about that. The three European stars are the next three players on the list in terms of rating. I am excited to have them back on tour next year. Obviously, we got a little slice of Kristen Tatar over here in the U.S., around the world's time. But, we're talking about two other players that are truly elite that feel like they haven't even just been a part of the tour in so long you can hardly remember. So I'm excited to have them back in 2022. Haley King is the other player up in the 970s. She is at exactly 970. Then it's Sarah Hokum at 968, Katrina Allen at 967, Owen Scoggins at 963. And those are your only players above 960. Thoughts on that?
I may be wrong about this. I haven't gone back and looked at previous months, but it feels like the ratings gap between Paige and then second place, Kristen Tatar this time, what was 5 points you said?
I think that's right. Yep.
That's the closest I remember it. That's the closest I think I remember it in a long time. I thought it usually feels like it's high 1060s and Pages is high 980s, low 9, so.
Well, don't forget, she was 996 in March.
Right.
Because remember, we came into the Texas swing and it was like, this is the chance. This is the moment. If Paige can play great over the next 3 tournaments, she could be the first FPO player to get to 1,000 rating. And she came out and had played bad in the first, was it Waco? I think she wasn't at her best.
Yeah.
And then, then it blew up because the tournaments that were going to drop off from 2020, she had played very strong in March. So she's dropped all the way down from 996 to 981 over the course of this year, which I think is both the reflection of the fact that, she did have some inconsistent play late in the season, but also just the mathematical effect of losing some of the really, really good rounds that she had in 2020.
Yeah, and so but I think that when I really like, while the ratings I think are difficult to predict week in, week out who's going to do the best, I think it does do an accurate job when we look back on the season and say, yeah, the gap between Kristen Tatar and Paige feels smaller than it's been before. It feels like, and I think that may be a reflection of the fact Kristen Tatar showed up and beat Paige 2-3 weeks in a row head to head. But it feels like while Paige is still the number one FPO player, there are a lot of women who could beat her on any given week. And I think in 2020, especially partway through the season, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like anybody could beat Paige in certain seasons. And so that this year I think does feel a little bit different, and the ratings reflect that. I cannot wait to have the European women come over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but look at Paige's rating this year. It was crazy. 996 in March. April update drops almost 20 points to 977. Then bounces back to 985 in June, 990 in July. Remember, this is coming off that stretch where she won 6 straight tournaments. Mm-hmm. Then dipped down to the high 980s, and then, after a couple of poor tournaments at the end of the year, dropped to 981. So it's been a roller coaster ride, very much reflected in the results that we've seen at tournaments. And, hard to say exactly what's going on there. I mean, remember, so she was at 996, all that pressure, 1,000 rating, all the stuff going on at the beginning of the year, disc golf's blown up. She kind of plays badly in Texas and then goes to Hawaii and then comes back and dominates. And then I think you saw again towards the end of the year, that focus waning a little bit. It's funny because she's graded on her own standard. When you sit down and you think about who was the player of the year in FPO, I think some people are going to pick Missy Gannon. I think some people are going to really have that recency bias of thinking about, what an amazing finish Missy Gannon had of the season, which is true. But the fact is, Paige Pierce was still the best player in 2021. Sorry. I know that there's a lot of moments where sort of high profile losses, but it's because when she wins, you expect it. And when she loses, it's news. So you downplay the wins, you overplay the losses. And, when you actually sit down and you look at how many wins players got, it's still Paige. And could she be better? Sure. We've seen it. We know that she's got the tools. But on the other hand, I think what you say is true. I think we're getting to the point where even if Paige plays, her A game, she could still lose. Mm-hmm. Particularly I think to the big three from the cross-Atlantic competition. All right, so before we get to an interview with Mahmoud Bahrani from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, we're going to be talking about live disc golf, the evolution of live, what we should see in 2022. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has been starting to announce some of its awards for the year. And so the big thing people have been talking about, Josh, Rookie of the Year is it's a statistical decision, right? So it's awarded to the highest points finisher in each division that played fewer than 3 Pro Tour events in the prior year. So this is not subjective. There's not a vote. They just said, who played more, who played fewer than 3 last year and is now the highest finisher this year. So the winners are Gannon Buhr, okay, and 5-time world champion Juliana Korver. And some people have been a little bit upset by the fact that Juliana Korver won Rookie of the Year because obviously she's far from being a rookie. What are your thoughts here? Obviously, the Pro Tour just said, here's this objective metric. Korver was the person who finished the highest by this criteria. It's a little unusual to have somebody take off all of this time, come back to the pro game and play at this level. But is it weird to have a 5-time world champ win Rookie of the Year?
No, in my opinion, not. And here's the reason why. First off, I saw a stat that said Juliana Korver beat more unique opponents in this year than she had, I think it was in her career before. Right. The game that she played, the game of FPO disc golf on the Pro Tour is significantly different than the landscape in which Juliana Korver played and won her worlds. And I'm not trying to diminish her world championships. But if you listen to any of our interviews with Juliana Korver, the resurgence of COVID means that freestyle really wasn't available for her. That those kind of competitions went away and weren't present during COVID. So she turned to disc golf. She went back to disc golf. She was really impressed after she played her first disc golf event and then decided to continue on tour longer. It was something that is completely different than the world that she used to play disc golf in a scene that is significantly more competitive and I think is built in a set of circumstances that will probably never happen again. I don't know of any other excellent player, both on the MPO or FPO side, who is going to essentially come out of retirement and dominate and compete at this high of a level in order to earn this award. I think it was bred from a special set of circumstances from COVID, of the explosion of the Pro Tour during COVID times, and then a player who just may have retired a bit too early because she still got it. And it is a unique set of circumstances that I doubt will ever happen again, but very much deserved for Juliana, in my opinion.
Scott Stokely is rubbing his hands together right now, trying to chase that Rookie of the Year ring in 2022. Stokely supposedly coming back to the game. He's been training. Whether he'll be able to outclass the other up-and-coming 16 and 17 and 14-year-olds who are going to be hitting the tour that we don't even know of yet, we'll have to see. But I mostly agree with what you're saying. I do think that it is understandable that people are like, this is farcical that somebody who is a 5-time world champion and clearly legend of the game, Hall of Famer, is winning a Rookie of the Year award. That's not in the spirit of what Rookie of the Year means. The thing is, if you're going to set an objective criteria, you have to spit out what it tells you. You can't put your thumb on the scale and be like, well, it's whoever fit these criteria except this one player who we're going to carve out because it doesn't make sense. That's what you're going to get. I mean, I actually think this should have just been a voted on award, just like some of the other awards. Because why does scoring the most points necessarily mean you're the Rookie of the Year? I mean, it probably does in most cases, but if I'd had a ballot vote for this, I would not have voted for Juliana Korver.
Sure.
Not because I didn't think that was a great player, but it's just that's not, no one's thinking, oh yeah, she should win Rookie of the Year. So, it's the same as if you said, well, we're just going to give the player of the year
to
person
Katrina
with the
Allen.
highest points total. Right. I mean, or just like, you just do it by some objective metric, which like, right. Because Katrina wins the PDGA points, right? So exactly. Like she's going to win PDGA Player of the Year, I think. I haven't checked the like latest standings there, but there's a points series. They do this very objective thing, and then that's the award. And, it is what it is. Like at least this year, the rules were consistent from start to finish and they didn't change them midstream. But, for the Pro Tour, like the Player of the Year award is voted on. Mm-hmm. And I think that's appropriate because it's not just about how many points you collect. Shouldn't be a volume award only. There's also a clutch factor, and there's a who won the big tournaments, who won the head-to-heads. Like there should be a feeling of, there's a choice to make. I think you could do the same thing with rookie.
Well, and here's my example for that. Cade Filamahala played, I believe, 3 Pro Tour events this year. We talked about him a little bit, from Utah. Young guy, won AM Worlds, I believe it was, or National Championship, one of the two. It was AM Worlds. So wins.
What is the distinction between these tournaments?
I have zero clue. I've
never understood that, idea. Right? Like it's like AM Worlds, AM Nationals. Okay, whatever. They won an big amateur tournament.
Right. So he wins a big amateur tournament, and I think he played in 3 Pro Tour events this year. I'm not positive about that. But if that's the case, and he comes on tour next year and goes full-time tour next year and shoots lights out and is regularly in the top 10, he's now, based on this metric, disqualified from the Rookie of the Year, but I think is an excellent candidate if he does do really well. So I definitely like the idea of voting for Rookie of the Year as well.
They also announced the Most Improved Player awards. Those went to Missy Gannon and Kyle Klein. Now, these, in fact, were voted on. And I did not vote for either of these players. I had a ballot. I did not vote for either of these players. So I'm curious first, Josh, what do you think about these players? Obviously, both had just tremendous seasons. I don't really have a lot of quibbles with them winning this award. I had Gavin Rathbun and Kona Panis as my 2 players that I picked for Most Improved in 2021. What do you think, Josh?
I probably would have voted I like Kyle Klein and Kona Panis. I think Kyle Klein from past season to this season was markedly better in a lot of ways, and we saw that. I think Kona has the statistical data to back it up. I think after Leah Sinigini, Kona was next in Most Improved PGA rating on average round. And so, it's there. You could see the numbers that Kona improved and did significantly better over this season. So that's probably where my vote would go. But I think Missy is an excellent choice as well. Gavin, I'd like to see a little bit more out of Gavin. He was good, but Kyle was great.
Well, okay. So the question is really, what does Most Improved mean, right? It's not about who played the best. It's about who got the most better. Statistically, Kyle Klein is a great choice. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly to me, he was only 1025 rated at the end of 2020, now that I'm looking back at it. And he ended up, he's 1039 at the end of 2021. Now, I think part of that is that it didn't capture how, it was slow to catch up to how well he was playing, because I felt like Kyle Klein was somebody that I was expecting to see at the tops of big tournaments last year. He obviously did that with more consistency in 2021, but I thought we saw Gavin Rathbun go from being a player who nobody knew to being a player that was regularly on lead cards. Obviously he got hurt. I weighed that pretty heavily. I decided that ultimately I felt like he got the most, he made the biggest leap. Mm-hmm. Kyle Klein's obviously a better player, but I thought that Kyle Klein was, he was somebody who was USDGC in 2020 finishing near the top. And so I felt like, while certainly he's one of the most exciting young players, I just felt like he didn't get the most better. He was just already really good and then had a full season to show that off this year. No real issue with the selection. Gannon, similar story. I mean, I think both Panis and Gannon, totally reasonable potential winners. I thought, Panis went, again, from being somebody who was not really relevant to being like a winner on tour. Missy obviously also got over the hurdle of winning an Elite Series event this year, had the great finish. But I felt like Missy Gannon, we've talked about it on the show, she's been top 5 for 2 years straight. Boom, 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 boom. And for her to finally win some, that's notable, but I don't know that she got as much better as Kona Panis did, who clearly spent a ton of time on her game in the offseason and came out in 2021 and looked like a transformed player starting all the way back at the All-Star weekend.
The one thing I will say about this, for Gavin Rathbun, I think the Gavin Rathbun, Kyle Klein illustrates this perfectly. Gavin Rathbun went from good to great. Kyle Klein went from great to elite, and that jump is significantly harder to do. The points that Kyle Klein earned, maybe statistically speaking, they aren't as many points as Gavin Rathbun earned in terms of his rating difference. But it's
Gavin Rathbun's rating hardly changed. That's the knock on Rathbun. How that really works out compared to the fact that he clearly was playing better at big tournaments. I'd have to go into the math.
Sure, but I mean, let's take Brody Smith then. Brody Smith climbed significantly in his rating, but the points he climbed are significantly easier to climb than Kyle Klein's 15 points that were, in my opinion, an astounding feat even to climb those 15 points in one season. That's hard to do. So that would be the one counter argument I'd make there.
All right, we're going to send it over to our interview with Mahmoud Bahrani. Looking forward to talking with him about live production in disc golf. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They're about to be the makers of the best bags in a variety of other categories. Available now. Rapscallion bags, a spin-off of Pound. They make beverage carrier containers. I have one here at the house. It's awesome. It holds 6 bottles of wine, 2 big growlers, whatever you want to put in it. It's in a really nice looking case. You can take it to a dinner party. You can take it with you out to the park, wherever you're headed. Check it out, rapscallionbags.com. And keep an eye out for the Fly Pack coming to Pound very soon. A really beautifully put together travel bag. It's in the final stages of development right now. Check everything out at pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot is Mahmoud Bahrani. He is the media director at the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the producer of the live streams that you watch on the Disc Golf Network. Mahmoud, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charlie.
So, we're in the off season. I'm sure it's still nice and busy over there at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I wanted to have you on today to kind of talk specifically about live production of disc golf. And I think a lot of people know who you are, but just in case there are those that don't, Mahmoud worked at ESPN for a long time and has been in sports production and television for a long time before taking over as kind of the lead producer at the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So Mahmoud, you've seen the evolution of live disc golf from when you were just a fan and now working in the industry. What would you say have been the sort of the big advancements that we've seen in live coverage over the last 5 years?
I think the biggest thing is just kind of covering the tournament and not being post-production live. Like trying to think about what we're doing differently than we're just going to cover this card for a round, trying to tell storylines instead of just showing shots. Like doing things more like a traditional live broadcast, I think, is kind of the biggest improvement, especially over the last year and a half.
So when you came over to do live production, what was your end goal or kind of end vision for what you saw as live disc golf? And where did you draw that vision from? Does that come from traditional golf? Did you take inspiration from other places?
I just wanted to look like a sporting event. Like, I honestly, like, I feel like live disc golf a couple of years ago, like, it didn't look like sports as much. It just kind of looked like, guys with cameras out there kind of filming shots. And that's not what sports look like. Like, if you watch a sports broadcast, any sports broadcast, it feels so natural that you don't even realize, like, how much producing is happening. You don't realize how many storylines are being, like, very subtly kind of told to you through the camera shots, through what graphics are shown, through all these things. Just trying to make it look, aesthetically pleasing in a way that, like, you want to watch it. Like, at least for me, the kind of the chart in my head was year one was make it watchable. That was, like, the whole goal in 2020, I guess it was just like, let's just get to watchable. I think we did that. And 2021, this past year, was make it watchable and then, like, expand, right? Like, get it to a point where now almost every weekend, if there's a big tournament, you are like, there's probably live coverage of that tournament. Like, make that like a new standard. And then the goal for next year, I guess, is kind of like make it enjoyable. Well, I mean, I think it was enjoyable this year. I think we got past, like, even our original goal and just got it to, like, a really good point where it was an enjoyable experience to watch. And then next year is just continuing to kind of grow on that. But yeah, to answer to your original question, it was basically like, make it feel like a sports broadcast. Like, I mean, everyone's been watching sports since they were a little kid, but, just kind of, I've been around sports my whole life, and especially, like, a really good sports broadcast just feels like, it feels so natural that you don't even realize all the things that are happening. That's kind of where I wanted to get disc golf production, and I couldn't do it without, like, JBD and Gary and and Chuck and all the other folks in the control room. Like, all of us working together kind of make it happen. So it's like the Power Rangers, like, by all their powers combined.
I want to get into some of the, like, specific inside the control room stuff, but first, one of the things that I always think about when I think about production of sports is that the NFL is a sport that has, far more downtime than uptime, which in a way is like disc golf, where, you have a shot and then you have 45 seconds to a minute of, waiting for that person to throw their shot again. Now, I know that's not exactly the cadence because you have 4 players on a card, but there is a lot of time of walking, downtime, and then action. And the NFL is, like, the most amazing television product that's ever been created. It's the number one show on television every single year. It's got, 9 of the top 10 broadcasts of the year typically. And they're doing that with a product that doesn't seem like it necessarily fits well on TV because there's so much downtime. And yet they've made it an incredible television product, arguably better than the in-stadium product, because they've managed to figure out how to get all of these incredible replays and have 40 cameras, and the sound and every element of the broadcast is spectacular. Disc golf has real challenges, not just the fact that you have to have cameras sending signals wirelessly, but there is a lot of sort of weird timing and cadence, especially when you're dealing with multiple cards. So how have you navigated that specifically? What makes disc golf hard, and how do you fill that time that we used to watch either commercials or people walking down the fairway?
Yeah. I mean, I would actually kind of, like, disagree with the base premise that, like, there's a lot of downtime in disc golf. There is zero downtime in disc golf. I wish there was more downtime in disc golf, to be honest with you. That's probably the biggest advancement we made this year, is kind of figuring out how to, we didn't have a replay operator until halfway through this year. So kind of figuring out how to, well, not halfway, like Jonesboro, and basically figuring out how to use our replay system to show as many shots as we can and fit them inside of each other. So, like, the first year where we didn't have that replay op, I was building a ton of assets, like a ton of, like, graphics or sound bites or just different things to fill that downtime like you're talking about. And we did have the replay system. It was just coming through the director chair, and our director is already directing. Directing is very, very difficult just by itself. So like I could do replay. I could hit the replay button, say, "Hey JVD, it's the latest replay. Just hit that, and then we'll play that after this." But it was not like we couldn't really do it in a very quick and efficient manner. Now with we have Gary Oberberger operating our replay, and does a really good job of, and I'm also operating a replay machine. So basically, when we're covering the 3 cards, it's very rare that what you're seeing is happening live. We're usually taking a shot that happened like a second ago and fitting it into the quote unquote downtime. So the worst thing that happens to us is that there isn't enough downtime. Is that like, gosh, I can't get the Sarah Hokum drive in. Paige is throwing, and Katrina's going to throw in a second, and I don't have time to get this Hokum drive in. And then Hokum's already thrown her second shot before Katrina can throw her shot. So now we're 2 shots behind, basically. I want to see both of these Hokum shots because Hokum's leading. She's on the chase card, but I'm 2 shots behind now. And then, by the way, on the 3rd card, Macy Walker just hit a 60-footer. And, oh, by the way, on the 1st card, Heather Young just hit a 60-footer. So now I got to do the replay for the Heather Young shot because that was a big deal. But Sarah Hokum's winning the tournament, so I got to show both those shots. And Macy Walker on the 3rd card, like, yeah, she's not super relevant, but a 60-footer is really cool. I need to show, like, it's that fast. It's like inside of 5 seconds, all that stuff can happen. And it's just trying to figure out, like, I only have one screen to show people. Like I'm seeing 8 inputs. I'm seeing 6 cameras and a replay, and I'm seeing 6 cameras and 2 replays. So, and that's not even that many, to be honest with you, but so yeah, just trying to figure out which of those 8 screens is the best to show the one to show the viewer. Like it's super hectic. It's basically like chaos for 6 straight hours if we're doing a one seamless stream with men and women, or if we're doing separate streams, it's like 3 or 4 hours of just like straight chaos. And if we're off by like, it sounds insane, but if we're off for like 5 seconds, if I say, "Hey Gary, give me the Macbeth putt," and he's a second late, that might kill us because now Calvin's throwing and now we're too late, and now the Macbeth putt can't go until after the Calvin shot, which means that maybe Kyle Klein is right next to Calvin, and now we're even further behind, and it's just like it's crazy how fast it is, and yeah, golf is like the fastest sport out there. Like I've heard that from multiple people, like not just me saying that. Like I heard it at ESPN that golf's the craziest sport. I know that golf is the craziest sport because when I used to log, I was a PA at ESPN logging different sports. The easiest sport to log is football by far because it's like Leonard Fournette, is that his name? Leonard Fournette rushes for 5 yards, easy, done. And then you just wait 40 seconds till the next play. Golf is like Rory hits 240-foot drive. Bubba Watson, 10-foot putt, like it's so quick. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Sorry, I kind of got away from it there.
So I think this gives me added perspective that I really appreciate. But the one thing that I think that the live production does have to contend with still, and this is what you mentioned, is the fact that it takes a long time to watch. If I want to sit down and watch all 4 days or 3 days of coverage of a tournament, I'm investing almost a full day worth of time to catch all these streams. So how do you convince the more casual viewer to invest in live disc golf? What is your strategy on the marketing or on the media side in order to help people do that?
Well, that's super interesting because I don't think anyone watches most live sports except for maybe football. And maybe basketball. Like very few people are watching sports in that way, where you're just going to sit down and watch like 4 hours of a thing or 3 hours of a thing. I know when I watch, like I don't watch football, but like when I watch the Premier League, for example, I'm not like super like locked into the screen for 2 full hours or whatever while the game is happening. There's a halftime, you get up and go, do whatever. You're on your phone half the time, especially with basketball, like you're on the phone half the time. I feel like for live golf, especially, like, I mean, I'm pretty into golf as well. I don't watch 6 hours of a Masters broadcast every day. It's kind of meant to be something that you can check in on. Like, oh, okay, the tournament's on. I'll go watch 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever. I don't feel like you need to necessarily watch all of it to get a ton out of it. Maybe watch the last 15 minutes, maybe watch the last half hour or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's just like any sporting event. And our rounds are not really that much. It is longer. Like, I don't want to take anything. It's like a 3-hour round, and Joma's round is like an hour and a half. Usually those two parts are 45 minutes. But I mean, we're showing you like 3 cards worth of coverage all at once. And if you put all those shots in a Joma's video, it would also be 3 hours. Like, it's not like there's a ton of dead time in our broadcast anymore. So, yeah, I guess I would just think about it like any sport. Like, we're not saying like, please watch every second of it from beginning to end. We're just saying like, check in, watch 10 minutes, watch 15 minutes of your sport because it's on, and you can put it on in the background while you're doing something else. Like, golf's great in that way. So yeah.
One of the things that you've done this year is add a lot of cameras. There's more cameras than ever out on the course. You're able to do more with that. But as I think you've already been describing, it starts to get a little chaotic when you have more options. It makes it harder to show everything. So what is 2022 going to look like? Because at some point you run up against the limitations of the size of your, control room. You can't just add 5 more cameras and add, 2 more cards of coverage, because it will become impossible with the number of people that you have. So do you plan to add more cameras and more control room people? Is it about refining the product from 2021? How do you look at 2022, and like, where are you trying to put resources and focus this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's mostly about using the cameras we have more efficiently, making it so that kind of my baseline is I want all of our broadcasts. I want to take our best broadcast. Hey, Jack, that's my cat. I want to take our best broadcast from 2021 and kind of make that the baseline for 2022. So, and that's what we did from 2020 to 2021. Same idea. So, kind of using our cameras in the most efficient manner. If you look at tournaments like GMC or the USDGC and Throw Pink, basically tournaments where we could focus 6 cameras on one division, or Worlds, for example. Those tournaments tended to be, there's a lot more action that we can cover because we have 6 cameras as opposed to the 4 when we're doing like a split stream. When we have the 4 cameras covering MPO, we send 2 to FPO. That kind of like halves our number of cameras effectively. So when we did the split streams, we had, effectively we just added like 2-3 cameras. So I think that's like an efficiency that we'll kind of look to use this year. And yeah, to your point
so
about,
just quickly, does that mean that we're going to see split MPO and FPO broadcast this year at all tournaments?
You will probably see more of it. Yeah. I think that's kind of where my head has been at, and I don't want to like confirm anything or any, it's not an Ulti-World exclusive or whatever, but that's definitely something that we're interested in as just as a way to maximize like our tools that we have. And yeah, I think what you saw at USDGC is kind of approximating. I know not everyone watched that stream because it was pay-per-view, but like kind of approximating what this could look like going forward. They could get bigger and bigger. And that's how traditional golf broadcasts are. So we had hardwired cameras at USDGC covering holes 7, 17, and hole 1, I believe. And those were going into a control room in Winthrop. So we have our own control room, and we have our 6 cameras. But then they would cover holes 1, 7, and 17. So Chuck Bayless out at the Shack could say something like, "Yo, Andrew Marwood just hit the basket and went out of bounds." And I'm like, that sounds really cool. So then now I'm going to find a spot for that. So now we're going from, okay, Gary, show me replay A of Macbeth. Ian, Lunger, one of our directors, show me replay B of Waisaki. And then Chuck, get me ready, replay red of the Marweed shot. Now we're bouncing around to 3 replays as opposed to just A and B, 2 replays. And now you can imagine, now let's even expand it further. Now we have hardwired cameras on holes. I'm just picking out numbers 2, 3, and 4. And now I have another person in replay green, let's call it, and he's saying, hey, on hole 2, Cal Klein just threw an insane roller. So now it's like, okay, now I go replay A, B, green, red. Now it's like, and you're just living in replay. And now you see how it looks like a golf broadcast. That's what golf is, essentially, is they have all these control rooms. Usually, I think it's like 6 or 7 control rooms in golf where they're covering portions of the course, featured groups, and it's all feeding into one main broadcast that is basically just taking portions of that. So yeah, we're kind of building to that, where we're going to have eventually, like, I don't know how many control rooms, but that's what a golf broadcast is. And if we can get to like 2 or 3, that'd be really cool. And that's how you expand your cameras and expand to cover more of the course and stuff like that.
So as you get to, let's say, 3 or 4 control rooms, I don't know if that happens this year or not.
It's not happening this year. No,
it's not. That's happening this year.
No,
okay.
That's like real far down the
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So your role then during live production is to coordinate the rest of the control room, or rooms plural, for example, at Winthrop. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just kind of figuring out like because eventually there's going to be something that someone tells you that you can't play. Like eventually someone's going to tell you something like, hey, I got this really cool shot, and you have to say no. Like I just can't afford to spend time on it. So just kind of making those decisions in real time. That's kind of where that's like kind of the main gig, and trying to make it seem coherent. Like I can't just like throw content at you. Like it has to seem like it makes sense.
Mahmoud is also in the ears of the commentators. So
yes.
If I'm commentating as a play-by-play, I'm hearing Mahmoud basically throughout the broadcast so that we know what's going to happen. Because, there's not a linear flow. It's not just like on post-production where it's shot, 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 all in sequence. Stuff's bouncing around. So, Mahmoud has a lot of things to do at once. It's coordinating the production of the broadcast itself, but then also making sure that the commentators know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, exactly. I actually say that's probably like the main role, honestly, is like communicating with the commentators. Like I look at my job as the main part of my job is making my commentators look as smart as possible. And just making sure that they look like, like they know what's going to happen, because they should, because I do. Like I know what's going to happen, so like I should communicate that to them. So there are times where I will not do something just because I can't communicate it succinctly to the commentators. So
I want to debate you on something, because I saw you post on Twitter, and yeah, that's right. I'm digging deep. You said flyover before the hole is one of the silliest things in disc golf media that viewers are so locked in on, because that's how post does it. Flyover after the hole gives context for where the players are. You were referencing golf, the Masters. You saw DJ hit it into the bunker on the left. Now the flyover allows you to get a sense for how screwed he is. Flyover before the hole is valuable when building hype for a specific signature hole, like Maple Hill 8. So I am one of the people who wants to fly over before the hole.
with Charlie.
And I'm sure that you've heard this from me multiple times, because before every broadcast I say, can we please get more flyovers before the hole? And that has not, that's been something that I want to see more of. And I think, let me tell you why, and then I'm happy to hear your rebuttal. I really feel like in disc golf, you have to understand the shape of the hole and understand the nuances of where the fairway is in order to even understand the tee shot. Because I think you can't, because so many holes are so short relative to golf. In golf, there's a giant fairway. I can see from the tee that there's a giant fairway. They're going to blast it out there somewhere, and whatever. Like I know it's going to go 300 yards, and then we're going to see whether they're in the bunker or they're in the middle or whatever. In disc golf, a lot of times off the tee, you can't even see what you're looking at because it's shaped by trees. And so then I feel like once we get the flyover after the hole, it's like, oh, and like, now you're trying to explain what we just saw, but it's like, I don't know. For me, as a commentator and as a fan, I guess, I feel like seeing the flyover before helps me understand how the shot is going to look off the tee and like what is good and bad in a way that's different than golf. So that's my take. Tell me why you think it's one of the silliest things in disc golf media.
Well, I just think it's silly that we're like silly was a strong word. I just think you shouldn't get locked into anything producing. Like it shouldn't be like there shouldn't be rules to it. Like I did flyovers before the hole all throughout the Tour Championship. If you watch that one, especially like on the Gauntlet, I think the Gauntlet's like a perfect example of you almost have to do that one before the hole. The hole 15 at Hornets Nest, the really tight tunnel. Yeah, I think it's kind of like a case-by-case thing. I just think that to be locked in, to say it has to go before the hole, that does not make a ton of sense. Now, in terms of the show flow, it absolutely doesn't make sense for it to go before, because I want something to play while they're walking to their shots. Like that's kind of like that's a good piece of real estate right there. Because like it's not quite a commercial break length, the walk to your discs, but it is like that flyover length is like 30, 45 seconds. So that's perfect. So, it kind of fits the timing of that. And if I show the flyover after they complete the hole previous, they usually will not be at the tee of the next hole by then. So now I'm filling additional time with something else. And I don't want to show you a flyover and then show you some other content. Like I want to show you a flyover and now we're on that hole. Like it feels weird to be like, here's a flyover hole 5. By the way, let's go to hole 8. Like I don't want to do that, right? So like if I'm going to show a flyover, I need to be pretty certain that we're going to be on hole 5 when we come back out of that flyover. So all that to say, like, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's just difficult. It's nuanced. It's not like there's no one right way to do it. In general, it fits more in the production for the flyover to come after. But there are definitely times, and I mess this up all the time, where it should come before. Like hole 8 at Maple, it should come before. Hole 15 at Hornets Nest, it should come before. Hole 3 at Maple, it should come before. It's just kind of figuring out the spots where that makes sense. Also, flyovers are really long, and like I described to you the chaos of like how I can have 6 cameras and things happening on all 6 of those cameras at once. Telling me I'm going to spend 45 seconds on one thing is a lot.
That's a long time.
It's a long time to be on one thing. Like I might as well play a commercial break in there and then get that out of the way so I can show you more golf later. Like, so that's kind of all the things that are going on when you're trying to like figure out when to fly those things.
Trust me, I empathize with that. I think that there are times when it's okay, like, Maple Hill 1. You don't really need to see a flyover because we're going to see that big open downhill shot. Everybody knows the hole. The commentators can say the gap is over on the left. You want to get past the water, but you can dump out left early, blah, blah, blah. You don't really need to see it there. But I think a lot of times it is difficult to contextualize tee shots without that. What I will say is, I feel like a simple solution is just speed up the flyovers. Like I feel like the pace of the drone shot could be 50% like less long and then still be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds about like my personal like little thing that I want to hit.
It's very interesting stuff to talk about. Like I super enjoy it. Like kind of like there's no right answers here. That's why this stuff is fun to talk about.
I also would accept a graphic that commentators could like draw on and say, look, this spot right here, this is the bunker you want to avoid up on the left. And then when they go to the tee shot, it'll be like, oh, well, that's really uphill. Okay, that's bad.
The telestrator, we've been, how happy we would make any dogs with the telestrator. It would be so great to have one of those.
I'm scared to see Nate with a telestrator pen in his hand. He's gonna
just Chris
Collinsworth all over
bam.
the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and all I mean to say is that like there are a lot of things in disc golf that we are so used to from post-production that we expect to see in live. There's no other sport where it has like a 15-year established history of like, this is how people watch it. Now we're trying to get you to watch it the way that all the other sports are consumed. There's no sport like that where we have to kind of combat that. Like you probably are pretty used to watching all the tap-ins, for example, on a golf hole. There's nothing that would make me happier than to not show tap-ins, but like it feels wrong to me. I watched post-production for 5-10 years before I knew anything about like live golf, right? So it feels weird to me to cut out of like a 5-foot tap in, even though I probably should if I'm going to show you all this other content. So there's just stuff like that we're grappling with all the time, even in our own like heads. So, yeah.
That's an interesting one. I mean, as a commentator, I sort of hate it when like once people miss, like, let's say they miss a 25-footer and it lands right under the basket, the drama's gone. We know the score that they're going to get on that hole in 99.9% of cases. And it's like, oh, they're going to take a bogey. I feel weird sometimes being like, they're going to take a bogey, even though like they haven't actually taken the bogey yet. You know, it's like there's this weird thing, but I sort of agree that, you know, the tap-ins are like one of the worst things to watch in disc golf, you know, except in those rare instances when someone, you know, blows it from 2 feet because they're like, they're mad and they smash it into the chains and it spits back out or something. Right. But yeah, I don't know how you handle that, because it's true. It's like 20 seconds of people like walking around and, you know, everyone stands still because they don't want to move while the person is throwing their 1-foot putt.
Exactly.
You know?
And in post, it's fantastic to have that time because now
you can just go,
you can talk.
Bam.
You can talk about it. It gives the Yuli and Germ an opportunity to like banter or whatever. I like, and that's like, and that's why you watch post-production. That's a big reason why you watch post-production, is to hang out with those guys, and they're super funny and really enjoyable to be around. So like those tap-ins are excellent for them, but for us, not as much.
Well, and the other thing I think about when someone blows it on the 2-foot tap-in is that's, in my opinion, I'm happy watching that on replay just as much as I am live. Like, that's a clip I'm going to watch. I'm thrilled if I see it on Twitter. It doesn't matter where I see that. I'm going to laugh about it whenever I see it. So I love the idea of getting rid of tap-ins. But again, I know what you're grappling with. So
yeah, it's difficult. So
here, how about this one? I saw you mention this on Twitter a little bit too. When do you stop showing somebody's shots? Right? If someone's on the lead card and they're having a horrible round, you know, they're 4 over through the first 4 and everybody else is 4 under through the first 4 and they're basically no longer in contention. You know, we kind of have this model of seeing the lead card show all of the shots from the lead card. And in a lot of cases that's appropriate, but sometimes it maybe isn't. You know, are you willing to walk away from somebody's shots if they're, you know, maybe you show their good shots once in a while, but once they're out of contention, is it worth continuing to show them just because they're on the lead card?
Absolutely. We should not be, should not, but like, absolutely. I try to cut away from players who are maybe struggling a little bit. Not because they're struggling, just because like it's not relevant to the story of the tournament anymore. So I think GMC was a really good example of this, where we had 4 players all kind of go off at Brewster, and then they got to Fox and they struggled. I think it was like, I forget who the 4 were. It was like MJ, like 4 Woods players who, once they got to Fox, like struggled a lot. And we basically stopped showing their card. I mean, we built it up even before the round. We were like, I think that was the round that the third card was insane. Like it was like Macbeth, Wysocki, Bar. Like the third card was like, we kind of knew that card was going to go off. So we planned for that. We planned to move the camera over there as soon as that happened, and it did happen, and we were prepared. So we had 2 cameras on the third card, and that basically became our like feature card. Like we don't have a feature card, right? Like we're kind of covering whoever's doing their thing. So, I think I showed probably 5 holes at MJ golf, and then that was about it that round, because MJ really fell off pretty badly. So yeah, we're definitely not. We did this at USDGC. It was like crazy risky and like really scary to do. But at USDGC, we moved a camera over to the chase card when Freeman and Hendel had fallen off, and so we had our full suite of cameras on the chase card while we were covering. I think it was Kyle Klein going off. So yeah, those are really difficult decisions. I really don't enjoy making those, because like you get bitten quite a lot there, where you like move a camera to someone and then they bogey, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. Or you don't move a camera expecting them to bogey and they don't. I think Austin Hannum at Delaware was like the worst example of this, where he went like birdie, birdie, ace, birdie, 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 or something on like the hardest holes on the course. And it was like, you know, I'm not supposed to, like, it's hard to predict that Austin Hannum's going to ace and then go birdie, 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 right? So yeah, those kind of decisions are really, really tricky. but yes, like short answer is absolutely yes. I will stop showing someone if they're falling off. And if you're shooting well, I will find you. Like, it doesn't matter where you're on the course. Like, we're going to get your shots in. So yeah.
That's where more cameras comes in to be handy, right? 'Cause you don't have to make that choice.
Exactly. Yeah. And all my cameras are guys on legs. Like, I don't have like any cameras in the tower somewhere on a hole where I can, like, USDGC was so sick that I had that, like, cause then I was like, oh, this guy's shooting hot. He's about to get to 17. I'm going to have that shot no matter what. Cause I have a camera there. I have a steady camera there. I couldn't imagine what a golf broadcaster must feel like when you're just like, I'm going to have all their shots. And I don't have to think about it. Like, that's great. So
does this mean everything will be pay-per-viewed next year?
Absolutely not. No. Not even close. No.
Yeah. So when it comes to, like, you were talking about choosing the right person, do you ever make selections based on just actual course restrictions? You just talked about how they're on legs, right? So, if you've got a course that this guy just got to the top. I'm trying to think of a good example, and I don't have one on the top of my head. And it's probably because I haven't spent a lot.
When they're on the opposite
side of the course.
When they're on the opposite side of the course.
Yeah. So if you had to say, man, I really wish I could cover this person, but he's on the opposite side of the course, and I just can't get to him.
Yes, that happens all the time. Kind of the workaround is, so let's say they're on like 10th card. This happened with Kale, I think, at Waco. We're very strategic about thinking, how can we cut across certain places? What holes are close to each other? We have it all planned out beforehand so that we can get a person there as soon as possible. It's not easy. Like, I won't lie to you. It sucks when they're like on the opposite side. Like that Hannum thing, he was on the opposite side of the course from where our cameras were at. So that was like part of the decision-making process. So yeah, there's not really much we can do except kind of know the course super well and move the cameras based on where we know there are shortcuts and little places to get around. A lot of places we have carts that'll drive us around. In Waco, we have carts to drive us to like the back half from the open half. And certain courses like Maple Hill, I know like backwards and forwards because I've played there so many times. So I know all the shortcuts there. I know if someone's on 14, they're really close to 7, or they're really close to 7. I know if someone's on whatever hole 11, they're really close to 13. Like, it's just knowing courses and kind of being able to put yourself in the 3D space of the course.
All right. So what upgrade should we expect in 2022? Whether that's little things behind the scenes that we won't notice necessarily in the broadcast, or things that will look different on the show itself.
Yeah, I think my point of emphasis this year that'll be like very obvious to people is probably like music and audio. Just trying to use more music in the broadcast. Just trying to kind of add some like life to it a little bit. That, I hate going to break. I hate going to break with no music. It really, if you watch any sports broadcast, again, you probably don't even realize that there's music under every bump to break. It's very rare that you don't have it. Maybe there's like a huge dunk and they don't do it, but like for the most part, there's some kind of stinger or bump to break. And we did this at USDGC and we did it at Tour Championship where we had some bumps to break, but I want to make that more of like an all the time kind of thing instead of just like a thing that we do at big events. So that's like the first big one. And the second big one is probably just like trying to make covering 3 cards the standard. We did 3 cards a lot last year, but it wasn't like, this is what we do. It wasn't just like the standard process. I think 3 cards becoming kind of the new standard is kind of where we're going to go, where I'm thinking we can go for next year. If we can get all our ducks in a row, we can coordinate all that stuff. So it's exciting stuff. I mean, we're kind of like building the plane as we fly it. Like, no one's done this before. Like, it's not like there's like all this experience of live disc golf out there. So, we're as excited as you are to see how it works, like, honestly, half the time. So, I hope you guys can enjoy what we're doing and just get excited that like it'll only get better. So, yeah. Thank you to everyone who watches.
People love to complain, but like the the product has come so far in like 2 years that it's like a completely different thing than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos for the work that's been put in on that front. Before we let you go, what the hell is going on with the Chicago Bulls, Mahmoud?
Okay, so I was hoping you'd ask me this. The loss against the Heat was really triggering because, like, I get that you have a bunch of guys out, but you still have Lonzo, Levine, and Vooch. And there's, like, they also had guys out. They were also missing Butler, and they were missing Adebayo. We can't win it. There's no way we can beat them if they have Adebayo healthy on the floor. So, like, it's not like they were missing Gabe Vincent, who's been, like, insane for them all year. So, like, the fact that they got blown out was really, really frustrating because I don't care that you're missing your guys. You still have your all-star Levine. You still have your all-star in Vucevic. Like, if you consider yourself a top-tier team in the East, like, that's a game you kind of have to win. And they won the game against the Nuggets with in a similar kind of shorthanded situation. So, like, I was so proud of them for winning that Nuggets game. So to come back and get blown against the Heat was, like, just really kind of troubling. And I think we just needed more of a mental break than a physical one because they just canceled the Detroit game and the Toronto game on Thursday. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good time to kind of get reset. And Vooch is he's driving me insane right now. Like, he's had one really solid game. I think it was against the Pacers. And it's just like, dude, you're an all-star. Like, get it. It's clearly in his head at this point. He's got the yips and he just needs to make like the 5-foot hook shot turnaround that he made all year last year in Orlando. That, like, I don't know why it's just not going in the hoop for him. But anyway, sorry.
Look, I'd rather be a Bulls fan than a Knicks fan right now. I'll tell you what.
Why won't
you
he
think
play
you've
quickly?
watched frustrating watching Vucevic? How about watching the Knicks starters every single game over and over? Horrendous.
I love Tibbs to the end of the earth. I just don't get. He doesn't play quickly enough, right? Is that like the big thing? Is it like quickly doesn't get enough run?
The big thing is that the players who are supposed to be good are not playing good. And so, there's only so much you can do. Like, yeah, we could play the young guys more. Kevin Knox could get more run. Quentin Grimes could get more run. Quickly could probably be in the starting lineup. You could put D-Rose in the starting lineup. But, like, at the end of the day, Randall and RJ have to play better if we're going to win games. So I don't really know what to do about that. Fournier was a horrible signing. Kemba was a flyer that didn't work out. So, we were supposed to be better than last year, and it's awful.
I just feel like Randall he's very, not to turn this into a basketball podcast, but Randall is like he's pretty one-dimensional, and I feel like he's pretty easy to stop if you like just know what's coming. Like, he's just like a big dude who is like skilled, he's not that skilled. Like, he's not like next level kind of guy where he can take you off the dribble.
If we had a real point guard, a starting level point guard in the NBA, he would be a great number 2.
Yeah.
It's just, he can't be the point guard. Anyway, I'm ready for the disc golf season to come back so that we can start talking about this stuff for the disc golfers. All right, Mahmoud, looking forward to 2022. Have a happy holidays.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Mahmoud Bahrani with us here on The Upshot. We'll be right back. Great to talk with Mahmoud about producing live disc golf. Folks, it is a lot harder than you might think. Maybe you get a little bit of a snippet of insight into that. Josh, you're not in the live production world. So what did you think of this interview and what did you learn today?
I learned so much. I had zero idea what goes into live production and the lack of downtime, as he talked about. I honestly can say that this was one of my favorite interviews that we've done since I've been on the show. I felt like it was 40 minutes of learning. Okay, sorry. It was 35 minutes of learning a lot. I guess I did learn in the last 5 minutes that Mahmoud feels very strongly about the Chicago Bulls.
Man, that dude is... He is an ultra Bulls fan.
I've never heard someone use the word triggering and troubling when describing a loss in for their team.
A single regular season loss.
Right. I learned a lot, and I really hope our listeners did too, because I had no idea what went into live production, and I definitely appreciate it more now.
Well, it's certainly something to watch the control room at work. There's a lot going on, and there's things happening a million miles a minute. And again, I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up on the things that aren't the best. I'm glad to hear they're working on audio this year. I think that that's really crucial. But so much is better now. Like it's night and day. It's night and day. And I think it's a sign of the success that they've had, that people have an expectation of an ESPN or CBS level broadcast. When those broadcasts have budgets in the millions and millions of dollars, with 3 trucks, 3 semi-trailers filled with people and equipment, and the tracer technology and all this other stuff that they do on golf broadcasts. And Disc Golf Network has 10 people in the production, and a budget of, probably, $10, $15, $20,000. I don't know, I'm making up a number, but sure. It's amazing what they've been able to do. So cool to talk with Mahmoud. That is going to do it for today's show. And just a little programming note. Next week, we're going to have one show. It's going to be a roundtable episode. We are going to be talking with retailers about their experiences during COVID and growing and competition. And really, we've done the interview. It's amazing. I can't wait to put it out. So we'll have that show next week. And then 2 weeks, like New Year's week, we will also just have one show that week. It will be a player sponsorship contract roundtable. So we're going to be talking about what kind of the landscape of player sponsorships and how that's changed, and maybe get some insight into the actual nitty gritty of the contract. I know that I am extremely curious to hear about that. So we will presume, if there's like a big breaking news, we'll probably pop on and do a little show and check in about it. But we are going to take a couple weeks off for the holidays, and that doesn't mean that the show stops, but it does mean that we won't do 2 a week. So we'll be back with you on Thursday. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you Thursday right here on The Upshot.